Okay, I'm gonna pop off.
Okay. It is live on YouTube. I think it's now on our YouTube channel. Can you check if that works? Oh yeah, it is. Okay. I'm gonna put in the live link in Signal.
Okay, and I will share that. Great. Thank you.
Doing my best.
You're a star. All right, have a great session.
Thank you.
Looking forward to learning.
Oh. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first session today, I think, if I'm not mistaken, of Nubia Fest. And today I am going to introduce to you the Comparative Nubian Dictionary project. This is a digital humanities project that I started actually after last Nubia Fest. It's something that I've been trying to build for a long time. And so the idea behind it is the following. Of the Nubian languages, we have many dictionaries, right? Or relatively many dictionaries and studies made by scholars. And over the years, some of these scholars have started to theorize the relationship between the Nubian languages and how they may have derived all from a common ancestor. And you do this through a branch of linguistics, and it's called comparative linguistics. And the idea of comparative linguistics is that you can use current languages as well as data from the past, either the recent past, if a language has died out recently, such as Birgit, or like the Middle Ages, such as Old Nubian, which died out in the 15th century, or at least which stopped being written in the 15th century, or Meroitic, which stopped being written in the 6th century. You can use these data in order to reconstruct, let's say, a timeline or a development over time of an entire group of languages. The most famous example is Indo-European, because for the Indo-European language family, we have a lot of sources that have a very big time depth. But also for the Nubian languages, because we have Old Nubian and because we have Meroitic, there is potentially a lot to say about something like Proto-Nubian, a Nubian language that was used and spoken before it branched into the multiple languages that we nowadays have along the Nile and in Kordofan and in Darfur. So there have been several attempts over the last decades by scholars to make, some steps in that direction. The problem with that is that all of those attempts are written down on paper in books. And when you have such complex data sets in a written format, like in a book, in a paper, in a journal article, it becomes very unwieldy to compare these data and to collate them into a larger set. And so what you want eventually is that all of these data are in a large digital database so that you can search that, such that you can have multiple people working at the same time. You want to connect those data with other linguistic data from other language families or from other projects, and you want to maybe do like larger statistical work about language development. So there are many things you would want to do with these data that are very difficult to do when they are just on paper. And so one of the ideas that I've had for quite a long time is we need to have an online database. And I had this quite some time ago when I looked at the Trans New Guinea database of Simon Greenhill. I'm going to try and see if I can show you a screen. Let me just try and share this right here. So when I looked at the Trans New Guinea database of Simon Greenhill, and this is and when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, here's somebody who's doing like an online etymological dictionary, precisely the type of thing that I want to do. and he has developed open source software to accommodate that. So what you see here is, you know, it has this really great map functionality where you can, it will probably have to load. Yeah, right. So, I mean, there are a lot of languages in here with all the languages, and you can probably click on any of these languages. We have a list of sources that he used. Again, you know, really everything is being put in here. And then we also have cognates. Let's see what it loads, if that still works. Don't die on me now. Okay, let's go here, families. So let's say we take Lakes Plain family, then we have all these languages in here, and then we want this language, and then we can see, you know, all the entries of this language. We can see where it's spoken, we can see where it's coming from. And then, you know, if we click on any of those words, then we can find all the other words for arm in all the other Papuan languages. And then we can, you know, we can get an idea of their relatedness. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, I really need to get something like this off the ground. I contacted Simon many years ago, but I am not a coder. And so it was too overwhelming for me to even think about how to implement something like this on a server and how to get the Nubian data in there. So I did something on my own computer, like in a basically a database file in LibreOffice, and called it a day. Until some time ago, I found another project, which was a Nubian dictionary project by a bunch of scholars, by Binitech, and they had digitalized an entire Nubian dictionary. And I saw that on Twitter, I think. And I approached them as like, oh, you did this really great work. You know, you made this kind of app that allows you to search a Nubian dictionary and Nubian Arabic dictionary. I have this idea for an etymological dictionary of the Nubian languages. Do you want to, you know, do you want to work together? And they did. And so we contacted Simon again. Okay, Simon, now I have some people that want to help and that know how this type of stuff works. And he said, well, we actually developed a whole new framework, which is cross-linguistic data. This is both a framework for representing cross-linguistic data and a data format. And so this is really nice because this is the data format, and here are the specifications. What is really nice about this is that this allows you to encode your data in a way that is standardized. And when you have standardization across data sets, then you can actually compare them in a useful manner. And so with the introduction of the CLDF, of the cross-linguistic data format, you can build these types of dictionary or etymological dictionary projects while also allowing them to be related, knowing that the data is structured in a specific way, in a specifically predetermined way. And so this allows you both flexibility, and it allows you a way of actually comparing the data. So hi Joel, sorry that it took me a while to understand that you wanted to get in. Hopefully you can hear me. So this allowed us to then implement or like start thinking about an online database structured along these lines for Nubian languages. Now, there are several implementations of this cross-linguistic linked data platform. I think you can find them here under data sets. Unfortunately, reality is always different than practice, right? So or an ideal reality. So you would want that they all operate kind of on the same platform and that they all are structured in the same way, but they're not. And so very, very quickly, the different a project kind of started to fork in different ways and started to use different flavors. And so we had to figure out kind of how, which version to use and how to implement that. And so I contacted the person behind this entire project at the Max Planck Institute. And he said, well, you probably should work off from the Austronesian comparative dictionary that it's not in this list even yet. It's this. It's very, very thorough. And the good thing about it is that it has every single functionality that we need. So basically we could look at the way that they structure their database and then kind of copy it. This was easier said than done because they of course made modifications to the initial platform and some of it was a little bit hacky. And so like we had to spend quite some hours trying to figure out how the system actually worked and how the data was actually structured. But we did. And so once you click on a cognate set, so like here, for example, we have a Proto-Austronesian root I am, heart or mind. And then when you click on it, it shows you this really neat map, if the map actually loads, and the reconstruction. Let's try another one that shows us actually a map. Grandfather, there you go. So it has this really nice map of the languages in which this specific root, with which this specific root is represented, zoomable and so on. It gives you the different forms that connect to this specific reconstruction, and you can also click them, and you can also click the languages, and then you have all the data sets of that specific language, which is pretty neat. And so we started doing that for the Nubian languages, and this is the result right here. There's, I mean, all the verbiage I still have to fix, obviously, but the basics are working. So we have a sources page, which is nice. So these are all the main sources for this etymological dictionary. We have a bunch of languages which are neatly represented on a map, which is also nice, including a bunch of proto languages. So eventually, I would like this whole thing to cover much more than just Nubian. I would like to have this like entire cover Northeastern Sudanic, which is the level up to which Claude Verrier has reconstructed. But I'm starting with Nubian, which is a subset of that, just because that's the way I have initially structured my own database here in home. And so like really nice, you can see here the now Nubian languages along the Nile. And you can see this really fun cluster here of the Kordofan Nubian languages. In Kordofan, and then here the Darfur Nubian languages, Birgit, which is extinct, Midob, Haraza also extinct, Tama languages, Nara, these, and then Nima is I think also right here somewhere in the Kordofan Nubian mountains. And then values, so these are the different forms that are currently in the database. And then cognate sets, so the sets that we have reconstructed. As you can see, there are only 3 at the moment because it is a shitload of work to actually get these forms in, and I can show you a little bit if you behind the scenes what that looks like. But the great thing is that it works. So you can click on the Proto-Nubian form Agil for mouth, and then it lists all the different forms that fall under it. So both on now Nubian and Western Nubian, those are kind of the 2 main branches. We have another reconstruction for Kordofan Nubian here, which is the reconstruction provided by Angelica Jacobi. The Proto-Nubian form is the one that's provided by Claude Verrier. If you click on one of these forms, then again, you see the language, you can see the parameter, which is basically its meaning encoded along the lines of the Concepticon word list. So again, like by having it as a parameter mouth, it is connected to a larger lists of concepts, like a larger conceptual list that again allows us to universally connect different words to each other. And so these are all the things in the database that are marked with the word mouth. And obviously those are the words that connect to agile, but potentially if there are other unconnected cognates, then they will also pop up in this list with the same meaning. And then again, you see very nicely how this works. And then the source. So I think we did this a little bit better than the Austronesian database. Like we have data about the sources where these different forms come from. And in this case, it comes from the dictionary from Gertrude von Massenbach, her Matoki or Kenzie dictionary. Here we have another one for the word white. And I've been experimenting also with a little bit more complex reconstructions, such as the word for eye and these two, this Eastern Kordofan Nubian and Western Kordofan Nubian, these are the data gathered by Angelica Jacobi, and I would ideally like to have them listed underneath here because they contribute to this specific reconstruction, but somehow I have not figured out how to get them to move. So there are still like a few things that I need to figure out in terms of like how precisely the way the data is structured allows me to influence the representation, because it's not all very obvious. But that's something I'm currently working on. All right, now what I can do is maybe have a little look at the backend. So currently it's very hacky. So I basically have a spreadsheet in which I enter the data, the different tables, basically different tables that are loaded into an SQLite database thing that then is used to generate the website that you see here. But this is how I do my data entry, and so it's really kind of miserable. So these are the parameters, and so all of these tables are linked to each other by IDs. So these parameters have IDs. Then I have a bunch of forms that you saw, right? So you saw the forms for mouth here. Parameter ID number 1. So this links to this word for mouth, the concept of mouth. They have their languages here and their sources. Some of them are marked as proto-languages, some of them are not, and this influences the way that they are represented. Then the way that you group them together is through cognate sets. So here we have this specific set number 1, agile, and then you have to link the forms that you listed in here. You have to link them to the cognate sets that you've listed in here, like linking them together. So you have 2 tables for each separately, and then you have 1 table that connects 2. And obviously it can very well happen that you maybe have multiple reconstructions, or that one specific form takes part in 2 different reconstructions, and so you can do all these types of complex relationships potentially if you would want to. And here you see, this is kind of ugly. And this is how you see the way these things are structured here. So we have the different forms for mouth. They are linked to this specific cognate set, mouth, and they all link to one specific proto-language, namely Proto-Nubian. And that's then the way that it is shown right here, right? You have one reconstruction Proto-Nubian, and all of these fall under it. There are no forms listed currently underneath Proto-Kordofan Nubian. I've simply included Angelica's reconstruction as is without the underlying data. But again, the plan is for step 2 is to not only to add all this underlying data, but to structure it properly. And then also to add all the other data from Claude Free, and then ideally to add everything else. And everything else means basically every existing dictionary of the Nubian language, and to find these correlations. So it will probably be a rather massive thing in the end, hopefully. And protoforms, actually, this is the list of reconstructions this is something very specific to the framework that was developed for the Austronesian database. It's a little bit unwieldy, but and it's non-canonical in the sense that it is not provided for within the data framework in this CLDF data format. So it's also like, why would you want to do it this way? But apparently they needed it this way, and so we have to deal with the way that they encode their data this way. Fine. It basically allows you to have multiple reconstructions under a single major reconstruction. So especially when you have like compounding going on and you have like a compound appearing across multiple languages and you still want to connect that compound to one of the root words, then you potentially could do it like with this protoform table. And it's another layer of complexity that I don't think is really necessary, but we have to deal with it because it's hardwired in their code. And I don't have the time to fix that code, nor the knowledge. So yeah, that's the overview of the project. I'm going to unshare this for the moment, and I'm trying to see if there's any way in which I can check any online questions that are popping up on the YouTube channel where this is being streamed. All right. Or whether there are any questions in the Zoom right now. I don't see any questions. In the YouTube channel. And I also don't see any questions in the current Zoom channel. I think one of the challenges will be is how to allow other people than me to interact with this system. Obviously, I don't want to do this on my own, but it also means that there needs to be built a user-friendly backend interface. Because the way I am currently uploading the data is I'm exporting CSV files from the Google Sheet, and then I'm uploading these to an FTP server, and then I'm running some remote commands via the command line through SSH to that server that then compiles the website. It's very smooth. Thank you very much, Cloud68, but it's not. This is definitely not the way in which collaboration on such a system can take place. So this is something to figure out, and that probably will result in quite some building of new software that allows you to interact with those data in the database in a much more intuitive and probably graphic user interfacey like way. So that remains to be built, and it's something that I would like to develop. But first, I would really like to get all the basic data in that already exist in the world, and I think that's already more than enough for the moment. But next year at the International Conference for Nubian Studies, I'm going to do a roundtable trying to think how we can collaboratively work on these data, because that's the whole point of having these data online in an open manner with an open license, so that you can actually work on these things collaboratively. All right. I don't see any more questions, and I'm done with giving you an overview of these data. I think that this will be saved on YouTube somehow and can be rewatched, and otherwise maybe on the Facebook page of NubiaFest as well. So with that, thank you very much for listening, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of NubiaFest.